Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast, and this will be the July 20th edition. Nothing in Purdue history ever happened on July 20th, Tom. I think it was 1969. That would be 55 years ago that Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Is that right? Yeah, July 20th. That's a historical note, but we want to thank our sponsor, the Union Club Hotel. Vicky Wicks, they are opening up a new spa today, Tom. If you need a massage, get your nails done. They're not today, but they are opening up next week, July, I think, 23rd, on the second floor of the Union, part of the Union Club Hotel. And it's going to be a happening thing up there. So that's a nice thing if you're visiting campus and want to have a day to pamper yourself, do so at the Union Club Hotel. Tom will be, I don't think he'll be pampering himself at all, but he will be traveling down to Indianapolis Tuesday for the first of Purdue's portion of Big Ten Media Day. And I know you're burning the midnight oil, coming up with and contemplating all those questions you're going to ask Ryan Walters and Purdue's three representatives there, but just got to give an overview of what, as you look at that, what these things are kind of interesting affairs, and they've changed over the years, and we'll get into that. But what do you want to know from Ryan Walters just coming in, and Hudson Card and Gus Hardwick and KJ in terms of what you're going to hear from the 2024 season?
Yeah, you wanted the first question for Ryan Walters. What will it be, Alan?
Yeah.
He steps up there on the dais. Just real quick, too, on Monday, again, the Big Ten Media Day is a 3-day event. Obviously, 18 teams now, 6 teams each day, the 23rd to the 25th next week. Again, Purdue's Tuesday the 23rd, and they will take the stage with Illinois, Northwestern, Ohio State, Rutgers, and Wisconsin. So that's your opening day lineup at Big Ten Media Days 2024. I guess, Alan, I kind of wonder, what did Ryan Walters really learn this first year as a head coach? That I guess that's fascinating to me. We always come into things in life with expectations and how we think things are going to go, and there's always items that hit us up the side of our head we never anticipated that crop up. So I guess I'm kind of curious, maybe some things that he encountered that maybe he didn't anticipate, or maybe were more difficult than he thought. Just such a learning curve, right, for anybody who's a first time at anything. And so again, I'm kind of interested to see maybe how he would answer that question, Alan. And I think on the field, specifically on the field, the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I think that's the key. They had their struggles last year on that side of the ball. That's his bailiwick, his area of expertise, if you will. Former coordinator. That's where he's earned his chops, Alan. That's why he got this job. At least a big reason why he got it. Feast or famine last year, either big plays or they allowed big plays. Are they going to be better there? Let's just get right to the point. I know nobody knows for sure. We probably have a general idea how he's going to answer that question, but still, a lot of new players, Alan. And they lost some key guys on defense. They lost their best player on defense, Nick Scorton. And they moved their second best defensive player, maybe, and Cadron Jenkins to inside linebacker. I know Dylan Thieneman's back there, but still, that's on the field, maybe my biggest question. So, you've been to these things before, kind of a dog and pony show, a lot of canned answers, but hopefully you'll get a chance to glean some insights, maybe off the podium, if you will. And we'll see what I come back with here on Tuesday.
One of the things I think will be interesting, of course, Gus Hardwick in the offensive line has been a mainstay of that line and been a very good player. He's battled injury, but that's such a big story of this season. It seems to me, as I observe, can Purdue on the offensive side, can Purdue protect Hudson Card? Is that offensive line with some new faces? They talk about it being extremely, much better, more depth, all those kind of things. As you talk to Gus, and Gus has been around the block a lot. He's mature and understands the big picture of college football. But what do you need to know? What do Purdue fans need to know about that unit moving forward?
Yeah, Gus, you're right. A good guy. He's been around the block. He's going to have to be the anchor, the leader up front. And I think that front is going to be better, Alan. I mean, it was pretty good last year. I know they had some some protection issues, but they ran the ball well, and
Yeah.
they just didn't have depth. I mean, if you remember the injuries, just hit them hard, and they were looking over their shoulder at the bench. Who's next? And it was pretty bare bone, Alan. They've done a good job of bolstering the depth this year. If those injuries hit again, I think the fall off won't be as great as it was last year at times. I really think, though, this front has a chance to be above average, if not pretty darn good. And they brought in some portal guys with some experience. I think two of those portal guys are going to start. I think DJ Wingfield from New Mexico is going to start. For sure, Corey Stewart from Ball State's going to start.
Yeah.
You factor in three veterans like Hartwig, Musa, and Bo. That's a pretty nice fivesome there. And your backups, you can throw out some seasoned guys too with Luke Griffin. Jalen Grant's back as well. Joshua Sales from IU. I know they really like Joey Tonona from Notre Dame. So honestly, yeah, they may be able to go 12 or 13 deep. So I think they're going to be fine there on offense on the line. For me, the question offensively, and I think offense could be the strength. I think it's going to be the receiving core. You talk about a turnstile.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with the guys who left after last year. With Deion Burks, Abdur-Rahman Yassin, he left as well. Mershawn Rice hit the door. TJ Sheffield hit the door. Probably 6 or 7 receivers left. And I think for the most part, a lot of it may have been mutual. I think Purdue feels like it's upgraded, but how good are these guys they brought in? We shall see. The guy to watch is Corey Smith, of course, from Georgia, the speedster. And of course, the kid who didn't even play last year, Alan, Jamal Edgerrin from Florida Atlantic. He was supposed to be their best receiver last year. He got hurt in August. I know their expectations haven't fallen off for him. He's supposed to be special. But we got to see it, right? How good's Denylon Morissette? I don't know. A lot of these guys they brought in were still relatively young, except for Cam Brown from UCLA. So again, how good are these transfer receivers in particular? They brought in a JUCO kid, Leland Smith. Is he going to help? Some of these freshmen going to help. They brought in 4 freshman receivers. Really, Alan, the only veterans who were here last year, who I think right now stand a chance to maybe help a lot, are Jaden Dixon-Veal. They like Jerron Tibbs a lot too, I think, who's going to be a sophomore. So keep your eye on him. Then Andrew Sowinski, guy who's a walk-on, and he's a guy I think is going to have a role. So just down a lot of moving parts at receiver. How is it all going to sort out? Who's going to really step up? I think having Hudson Card is going to help, but again, keep your eye on that receiving core as September progresses here.
I think one of the interesting things too is his offensive philosophy, and you've written about that, talked about, Graham Harrell, the air raid offense, but really in some ways you could build the case that Purdue ran the ball as well as it's run in years, right? Last year with Devin Mockabee and company, and of course you got Reggie Love back there this year too. Is that a key to this team and making that defense better in terms of at least controlling the clock a little bit? I'm not saying Purdue's going to run the ball 67% of the time, but really keeping that defense off the field. It seems to be kind of the way it's done in college football anymore now anyway. But how much of that is a storyline of this team heading into 24?
I think every offense wants to be able to run the ball for obvious reasons. I think you talked about one of them there, just keeping your defense off the field and keeping the other team's offense off the field, especially because it's explosive offense. But I think you just want to score points. In college football, like even in the NFL, honestly, but especially in college football, if you're going to win, you're typically going to have to score, 28, 30 points a game, it seems like almost. You're not going to win games, especially Purdue's not going to be winning games 17-14 and 10-7, So again, you just want to score points. Yes, ideally you can have long drives and burn clock, but you just want to score points. And I think Purdue is always going to kind of be what it is on defense, I think, Alan. You've been watching this program going back to what probably you remember from the mid-'60s to today. I kind of remember from about 1972, 73 to today. And I could count on one hand the number of times they've had great defenses.
That's right.
It's probably never going to change after we're dead for 50 years.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to score points at Purdue, especially. And I think Ryan Walters I think he understands that. And they're still going to be aggressive on defense. When you're aggressive, you're going to give up big plays. It's just going to happen. But you can't sit back there and play zone. They're very much like playing that man coverage and coming after quarterbacks. And that's going to change. Like I said, they're going to get burned. It's just going to happen. But I think you hope your offense is good enough where you can outscore teams and your defense can make enough big plays, get enough turnovers where for more times than not, you're going to be able to come out on the right side and win more than your fair share of games.
Well, the Big Ten is now the Big 18, so to speak, and it's a whole different world when it comes to that. No divisions anymore. Well discussed, etc. And I know you've been you have the unofficial poll now of picking how this is all going to finish. I got to think it's one of the hardest exercises, and you listen to and watch and read about college football around the country. Who the heck knows? I mean, yes, Purdue is picked by most in that 15 to 18 range. I don't know that anybody has them any higher than that. Purdue, that is. But it's just problematic. I mean, we're not making excuses for where Purdue's picked, but it is almost impossible to truly know what you're going to see when the teams hit the field. First, I guess, comment on that, but also some of the teams. Okay, we know Ohio State and Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, obviously are probably the four best teams. But how have you sifted through all this?
Yeah, I think starts with Ohio State, then Oregon's right on its heels, I think. And I think Penn State's probably going to be your third best team this year. I think too much happened in Michigan to pick them that high at this point. They're still going to be in the top five, I think. A lot of people like Iowa and Wisconsin too. Washington, maybe he's taking a step back after playing for the title last year.
Yeah.
Those are probably your best teams. I think USC's still has a lot to prove too, but they're going to be biting at the heels those top 5 or 6 teams, I think. And if their quarterback play levels out without Caleb Williams, they will of course always have talent. So yeah, just it's an exciting time, right? With these new schools coming in from the West, like you said, no divisions. We have a 12-team college football playoff now. The Big Ten championship game will feature the 2 highest ranked, Team 1 versus Team 2 in the Big Ten standings will meet. We could have Ohio State, Michigan playing back-to-back weekends, maybe, Alan.
Good.
So again, just a lot of newness here on the table from a not just a Big Ten, but a college football standpoint. Yeah, as for Purdue, Alan, you're right. I'm always I do the Big Ten preview for Lindy's, and I think I had Purdue higher than anybody, and I think I picked them 14th.
Yeah.
I think Phil Steele had them last, and I think Athlon's had them last. I think what causes people pause, Alan, more than anything is the schedule.
Yeah.
I think most would agree Purdue's improved their personnel. But my gosh, we've talked about the schedule before. Notre Dame coming back on the slate, right? You got to go to Oregon State, which won't be easy. I know Oregon State's got its issues. Still, that's a long trip. And then the Big Ten, Oregon, Penn State, they come to West Lafayette. Purdue's got to go to Ohio State. I think they got to go to Wisconsin too, Alan. It's just a tough schedule.
Yeah.
And I challenge anybody to look at the schedule. How many games do you think Purdue's going to be favored in? Maybe 4. And now I'm not saying that's the be-all, end-all, but just kind of gives you an assessment how tough the schedule is. If you're dispassionate about it and really look at the schedule, you go, my gosh, Purdue's probably only going to be favored 4 times this year. So, I mean, we've seen it before. I want to post here my story on the 1984 team that nobody was talking about either 40 years ago. I know that's ancient history, but they went 7-4, lost the bowl game, but we never know. But I think that's the reason why Purdue, I think, is viewed with low expectations this year for the most part. It's just that scheduling and the challenges that lurk there. Ohio State comes to West Lafayette too, Alan. So Purdue goes to Ohio.
Purdue goes to Ohio State. Yeah,
They go to Ohio State. So at Ohio State, at Oregon State, Notre Dame at home, Penn State at home, Oregon at home, at Wisconsin. They go to Michigan State. They go to Illinois, and they go to Indiana. Nebraska comes here, Alan, on September 28th, the first Big Ten game of the year. I think that's the key game. I think Purdue, first of all, has got to be 2-1 at a non-conference. You got to find a way to win in Corvallis, Oregon. And then you've got Nebraska, Big Ten opener. It's going to be sold out, Alan. You know that.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of red there. Year 2 for Matt Rule in Lincoln. Year 2 for Ryan Walters in West Lafayette. Nebraska may be starting a true freshman quarterback. It's been a really good series the last 10 years. Purdue's probably had the upper hand. Purdue's obviously, like I said, at home. Purdue's got to find a way to win that game at home against the Nebraska team still finding its way. Just a big game. It's one of those 3 or 4 swing games on the schedule, Alan. Purdue's got to find a way to win. You got to find a way to win at Illinois. You got to win in Indiana. You got to beat Nebraska at home. At Michigan State, Alan.
Yeah.
That's a program in transition that's very low expectations by the prognosticators, too. So those are the games I think everybody's got circled, those toss-up games. A lot of them are on the road, Alan. Like I said, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan State are all on the road. And boy, like I said, if Purdue wants to get to 6 wins, you're going to have to find a way to win a few of those road games, those road toss-up games.
Yeah. Even that, as you mentioned, that the favorites or how many games will they be favored? Even if they're favored against Northwestern, Indiana, Michigan State, it ain't going to be by much. So
at Illinois,
at Illinois, possible. Certainly Nebraska. You got to identify that game. Indiana State. Those are all the obvious ones. But it is a daunting task. It's going to be that way every year, though. We've talked.
Alan, Purdue could be underdog in Indiana by the time we get there.
Yeah. You just absolutely. And Indiana, there's some that wonder how that are kind of making them a little bit of not a dark horse to be a champion, but there are some that like the Hoosiers to be really pretty good. So
they do. And don't you think Illinois is licking his chops to get Purdue and Champaign after?
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that Purdue, drubbed them last year, really embarrassed Illinois in West Lafayette was one of Purdue's best games certainly last year, and an opportunity for Brett Bielema, who also wants to find a way to establish himself in the rough and tumble 18-team league. All right, I do want to ask you about your all the years you've gone to media days, all the places you've gone. It is with 18 teams, and now that it's so segmented, it used to be back in the day that every team was assembled when there were 10 or 11 Big Ten teams. That's very different now. But what is something in terms of media day that's kind of something you like about it, and something that you don't like about it in terms of the experience, whether it's the food or the venue or what? How do you do that?
Yeah, and real quick too, just we can discuss this stuff later and then in future simulcast. But just some of and these are subjects that are going to be discussed, I think, at some level in media days. Some of the new rules this year, Alan.
Oh yeah,
they're going to have in-helmet speakers where coaches can communicate via speakers with the quarterback. You can use tablets on the sidelines now, and again.
With movies or without? Can they be?
Yeah.
I mean, there was some discussion about that I was listening to this week. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and then a 2-minute warning as well. So those are some things I think on the field that you're going to see discussed a lot in early season broadcast and whatnot. And of course, again, there's always change and so those are things, like I said, they're probably going to be discussed during Big Ten media days. But you know what, Alan? Yeah, I've had a chance to go to a lot of these things. First of all, the Big Ten. Remember when I used to be up in Chicago?
Right.
What an event that was. Really involved the fans. Had that big luncheon. I'm sure you went to that luncheon a few times over the years too. In that giant ballroom, all the players and coaches sitting up on the dais there. Usually had a big time MC. Those days are gone. COVID killed that event, Alan. It's kind of too bad. Remember, like when David Blau gave his great talk up there.
Great talk, yep.
That stuff is gone, Alan. It's just gone. And the autograph sessions for fans, it was involved with fans. Honestly, selfishly, I like the fact that it's down and dirty now.
Yeah.
It's on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. There's no fans, It's all about business. And Indianapolis is just easy to get to, Alan, let's be
Yeah.
honest. But yeah, so I do kind of miss though that event in Chicago really had a bigness to it. That's been lost. I've had a chance to go to I think every one. I've been to Big 12 media days in a few different cities and Pac-12, SEC. I tell you, one of the cooler ones was the old Big East.
Yeah.
To have one in at Dwight D. Eisenhower had a house like a vacation house in Rhode Island near Newport.
Oh
And
yeah, some great places there. Yeah.
and they would have a big it was like a big clam bake. It was quite an event. They did all that just to get media to come out there, right? Because they wanted coverage. They weren't
Yeah.
stupid, right? But so again, that's one that I always kind of remember. But yeah, just kind of fun events to whet everybody's appetite. Let us know how close the season is. Kind of set the table, if you will. Talk about the storylines that affect each season, like some of the ones I've talked about, rules changes, new head coaches, players to watch, those types of things. Just kind of bring all those things front and center, sort of frame the season, if you will, and get us ready. And we've already seen the Big 12 have their media day. The SEC was this last week down in Hoover, Alabama. And actually, they were in Dallas, I think, this year. They were in
Yeah,
Dallas.
Dallas, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the Big 12 was out in Las Vegas, which is weird. I believe the ACC goes next week with the Big 10. So here we are, Alan. Like I said, Purdue's supposed to start practice July 31st. Players report the 30th. And the Boilermakers will be underway on August 31st. Is game one. Indiana State, and just something else for people's radar. Purdue will finish up that $45 million Ross-Ade project with the opening of their dining court here at the end of July to start a training camp in the northeast corner of Ross-Ade Stadium.
Right.
That's where the football team will eat. That's where every athlete will eat at Purdue now. And it's something that I think was long overdue. Early reports are from people I've talked to, everybody's excited about it. And it's going to be a pretty nice, addition to enhance the lifestyle and the experience for every student athlete, woman, male here in West Lafayette here moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, for football, it can't be more convenient now.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to go. I mean, it is all right there for them, from the Kozich to the practice fields to the dining, all within stone's throw. And we'll look forward to that. All right, Tom, we'll look forward to everything that you have to write. We appreciate all your diligence over the summer, especially keeping great content on the site. More recruiting, and we'll probably hit a little bit of that. Brian and Tom will probably do the show next week as I'll be out of town, but we'll look forward to more football and all your talk about the fact that this will be the 18-team Big Ten. It's the brave new world of college football. It's center stage in Indianapolis on Tuesday. So, Tom, thanks again, and we'll stay tuned. Brian Neubert will join us a little bit of basketball here on the back end of this. But, Tom, safe travels and appreciate everything.
All right, take care, buddy.
Brian Neubert joins us. We'll talk a little basketball here in the second segment of Saturday Simulcast. Brian obviously had a busy 8 days? Was it 8 days in Rock Hill? It was a junket down there, but
it was a long time.
So now that you have, I guess we'll start with that. Just on you wrote about your takeaways, and you can go to the site GoldandBlack.com. Yes, we do have a website. We encourage you to become a member. But now that you had a little bit of space in between, obviously Purdue looking at that 2025 class. You ran into some other guys, Trey Singleton, you've written about a lot. Some interesting new faces, or interesting faces to what will be the final pieces of that class.
Yeah. Now, what I was doing in South Carolina was really only the Adidas circuit portion of Purdue's recruiting board. Yeah. So it's just a fraction of the overall picture, but I thought it was a pretty big portion of the picture. I didn't go over the Nike stuff. I probably should have in hindsight. Antoine West, who's got a 2025 offer from Purdue, wasn't playing. So that's why I didn't go. But I really probably should have gotten to go see Sebastian Williams Adams. And I should be going to Indianapolis this weekend to go see Nick Hamania from California. But we've got some stuff going on here at home, so I can't get out of the house. I think Purdue's 2025 recruiting board is more robust than I think it seemed to be for years. For like 2 years, it seemed like Trent Sisley was really the only guy Purdue was recruiting.
Yeah.
And now here, I think a few months in advance of the signing date, if signing dates matter anymore, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Got a good 8-9 guys deep here of guys who are, seriously on the radar, if not, priority level targets here. So that probably doesn't answer your question. But no, it's going to be an eventful next couple months. Every year for the last many, Purdue has gone into this time of year with commitments and or guys who weren't technically committed yet, but Purdue could feel very, very good about whether they were going to get them or not. Jakari Harris basically brought his announcement down to the last second, but he was essentially committed for like 2 years. Now, obviously, you still got to keep recruiting kids like they're not committed. But, Purdue has really been able to kind of hunker down on those last pieces of these classes this time of year. Right now, Purdue has no 2025 commitments. They've got 2 scholarships they want to fill. And, the potential of roster limits, expanding the wiggle room to a 15-man roster, I think helps them maybe be more aggressive with things. And then in 2026, which will be a larger class, at least 3, they don't have any commitments, nor do they have anybody who's, sitting there waiting to commit early, like has been the case in a lot of these other past classes. So this is going to be really eventful next 24 months here for Purdue recruiting.
You look at where Purdue has, obviously the run this year and to the Final Four in the national championship game. You've also written about this, but in terms of what Purdue's cachet has always been pretty good, pretty high. Is it another level? Are you sensing? I mean, you're watching a lot of these guys play. And you don't know necessarily all the inside machinations, but you do know a lot. What is that? Is that a dumb question? It's just naturally they're now at that elite level, even though they're being choosy on who they go after. I mean, how do you view that?
Well, what players generally say with recorders in their face and what's actually real, what's going on
right.
Between their ears or the ears of their families or advisors or whoever it might be, are often 2 very different things. Of course, players are going to say, "Oh yeah, it was great. Purdue went to the Final Four," and it certainly stands to reason to suggest that is a big deal. And I think it's an especially big deal now because in these classes, Purdue has to go a little more national, simply because there's not those guys sitting right in their backyard like there have been kind of in the past. There's not a lot of natural connections to players, especially in the junior class, the 2026 class. So having a little bit more national punch to you, I think, is kind of the right development at the right time.
Yeah.
I think proving that anything's possible if you come to Purdue, I think is a pretty big deal. A lot of these guys who go to Duke and Carolina and, places like that, go there knowing there's a pretty damn good chance they're going to play in a Final Four when they get there. And I don't want to say that's necessarily something that Purdue has fought in the past, but it's something they no longer even have to think about having to fight anymore. So I think it's a really positive thing for Purdue, obviously. It was a really big deal for Purdue's program, and I think it certainly helps you in recruiting. Does it go get you the best recruiting class in the country right now? No. Does it change the way Purdue recruits? It does not. Purdue is still going to look for the sorts of guys that got Purdue to where Purdue is right now. So that means if there's a Saturday out there who no one's ever heard of, if there's a Braden Smith out there who is being grotesquely under recruited, things like that, Purdue's still going to recruit that player, and Purdue should recruit that player. But on those higher end guys, the guys with a lot of early offers and a lot of options and a lot of stuff to sort out in terms of taking visits and things like that. Again, you don't have guys in Indiana like you often have who've been around your program before they were offered, before they were really recruited. Getting them on campus for visits is going to be a huge deal. And now you can take unlimited official visits for some reason. Getting some of these nationally recruited types on campus for official visits is going to be a big deal. And to do that, you got to stand out one way or another early on. And Purdue, having just played for the national title, that's a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, no doubt. I had a couple of things. It seemed like it was Purdue week for me. Met with a lot of Purdue folks that over there that have been friends and associates over the years. But a couple of figures that came up. One, the dollar value of the Final Four put at about, interesting, $500 to $600 million in advertising and promotion goodwill. I don't know how they measured it. I'm not, don't come at us in terms of being able to prove that, but that was the figure I heard. And then, we talk about the housing challenge at Purdue, again, of campus problems, not something we cover here, but the fact that what they say that usually when housing, it's 60% of the time they get, students will accept housing at about a 60% clip. Once they're down to the final nub, they'll come to Purdue in a 60% ratio. Now they're at 90%. Those are all things that, from a university standpoint, that make it crazy. And that Final Four has had a lot to do with that. And like you said, it's a no-brainer that it's had a big part of it, but it is also that foundation that this program has built. It has a lot to do with it.
Does that mean the wait's going to be longer on Friday night at Cracker Barrel or Olive Garden?
Oh, I don't know what they're going to do.
I only eat at the classiest places, as you know.
They might be looking to rent your house. I'm thinking you need to come up with
I'm currently living in my house, so they're going to have to look somewhere else.
Well, we don't have anybody in our downstairs, so maybe we can come up with a dollar figure. I know I can come up with a dollar figure. There's always an amount that with being empty nesters, we can always negotiate with the folks at Purdue on that front. But yeah, it's crazy from that standpoint. Okay, the other news this week was, and you reported it long before it became official. The Auburn home and home, which is not any great news, but just scheduling and looking at, as you look at the way that Matt Painter and staff, Elliot Bloom on down the line, look at putting its schedules together. Purdue will have a challenging schedule with Auburn and Alabama and Texas A&M, et cetera, on the schedule of non-conference this year. I know I'm missing. So who are they playing in the Gavitt games? To Marquette? No, they can't be playing Marquette. What?
It's Marquette, yeah.
Yeah, Marquette again. So my point is
it still the Gavitt games? Though I can't remember.
Yeah, it's not the Gavitt games, but but anyway, anything in terms of looking down the road, this is a good tack. It seems to be a measure of where the coaching staff thinks this team was going to be, which should be a competitive one. Will it be a Final Four one? Certainly nobody's predicting that coming in, but just your take on now that deal has been announced. And yes, have you been to the plains of Auburn ever before?
I've not been to Auburn, no. Nor will I go to Auburn for this either. It's 2 neutral site games.
Oh, that's right. They're going.
So it'll be Auburn in Birmingham this year.
That's right.
And then it'll be Auburn and Indy the year after that. So this takes care of the Indy Classic. This is the Indy Classic essentially for next year. The Indy Classic this year is Texas A&M. That's just a one-off game. That's not something they have to return, thank God, because I was afraid I might have to go back to Houston. Sorry to all you Houstonians out there, but I hate your traffic.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, you won't be in. That's right. I brain faded on that one, but you'll be down in Birmingham, and you've been there before.
I've been to Birmingham many times. I have been to Tuscaloosa once, and Purdue will be going to Tuscaloosa too next year. So you have Auburn and Alabama on the next 2 schedules, but you're staggered. you're in Birmingham, and Alabama comes to Purdue, and then
that's right.
you go to Tuscaloosa, and then Auburn comes to Indy the next year. So
yeah. Going to be salty games. Both of those, Alabama's had done some things in the transfer portal and will be extremely competitive. Auburn as well. This is going to be; those will be a couple of tough battles for Purdue in terms of that. All right, I want to, as we come to a close, but just talk about any other burning. You've written about burning questions, but other things as Purdue continues its practice and getting ready for 24-25 season. No signs of the good thing, and at least from what we understand, no signs of any injuries yet. Everybody seems to be okay from that standpoint. But what are the things you're going to be watching for as you watch this team develop over the next few months?
Just what their offensive identity becomes. I think, Trey Kaufman-Renn is a go-to guy on the interior, but you have a backcourt that is going to have the same sort of gravity as like a Carson Edwards and Ryan Klein duo did. So that balance between inside and outside, and how they tailor their playbook this year, and how they put those wings to good use. Miles Colvin, Camden Heide. There's a lot of different things that they can experiment with and see what works. PJ Thompson watches a lot of NBA stuff, and I've always kind of said, I think I said this to him, the way the Celtics use Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in terms of initiating ball screens and using those guys as ball handlers and screeners. I think there's some possibilities there for Colvin and Heide to maybe do some different things. Outside of that, I think they're pretty. They got a lot going for them.
Yeah.
I think just all your returning assets make you pretty good. And then we'll see where they go in terms of some of these freshmen coming in. Obviously, you need these guards to play. You need some front court help to come in right away and help you. Front court help needs to help you. That's a really, really articulate,
very articulate,
well-crafted comment I just made. No, the other interesting dynamic, and I think this is very much a work in progress, and I think it's something people are going to want answers to long before there are answers to be given, is I think Purdue's default to start off with is Trey Kaufman-Renn playing the 5 center, even though he's not a traditional center. But I think for a variety of reasons, Purdue's going to want, a couple different elements there. They're going to want traditional size with him a lot of the time to take some of the interior burden off him defensively, but also to help them on the boards, to help them with collective physicality, things like that. So that's where Will Berg comes in. That's where Daniel Jacobson comes in. Even though Daniel Jacobson's body still has a ways to go to be, Big Ten ready. I don't know if sometimes guys just aren't ready, but they got to play anyway. But I think, what Will Berg and Daniel Jacobson as a duo, can give Purdue in the post, I think is going to be a really important development one way or the other, and it will influence how Purdue plays this year, what kind of lineups they run, what kind of style they play, how they defend, things like that. So those are a couple of things off the top of my head that I've probably already mentioned before, but it's worth repeating because it's important.
Yeah, going to be an interesting year with a team with a lot of talent, a lot of potential, certainly, and that will be a fun thing to watch over the next few months.
Let me go back to the schedule real quick, because I think there was there was part of your question that I left dangling when I started talking about Alabama and Auburn. I think Matt Painter's approach has been for a few years now, and is going to continue to be. We're going to schedule up. It was always you schedule based on the team you expect to have. And I think he'll continue to do that. They'll continue to do that because I think Elliot Bloom has as much say in the schedule as Painter does.
Yeah.
I think they're always going to schedule up, to build a resume, B, to expose yourself to a lot of different styles of play in anticipation of that helping you in the postseason. And then C, just to develop a team. You face Marquette and Tennessee and Maui or in Honolulu last year, and you can't tell me that didn't make them better when it was time to play Gonzaga and Tennessee again in the NCAA tournament. Stuff like that. And it's just part of team building. You want to be challenged right away. That makes you better. That was a big deal about that Arkansas exhibition last year too. That I don't know if Purdue wins the Maui Invitational without that Arkansas deal, and they'll be the same this year with Creighton when they go to Omaha to play that exhibition that has yet to be announced yet because that rule hasn't formally been changed yet. But no, it's just I think last year when you look at what the Big 12 did in terms of kind of sweet talking the rankings by blowing out bad teams, that showed everybody you can sweet talk the net rankings a couple different ways. I think Purdue's way is going to be the more substantive way. It's going to be the more challenging way, and I think that's something Matt Painter's been a forerunner on. He was one of the guys in the Big Ten who urged everyone in the Big Ten to do the same thing. Now, it is easier said than done. There are coaches in the Big Ten who just need to win. They just need wins. They just need to get their fans off their asses. And I think that Kevin Willard is going to be in that position. Mike Woodson's certainly going to be in that position. Look at their schedule. But I think Matt Painter operates his program like a guy with ultimate job security, and he understands the big picture better than most. And I think these schedules they've put together, Purdue doesn't have to worry about selling tickets as much as a lot of other people did. You always wanted to have that marquee home game on your schedule to sell tickets, in part to sell tickets. I don't think that's really an issue for Purdue anymore.
No.
But nevertheless, you're going to want a marquee home game. You're going to want a marquee road game most years. And that's harder now that the Big Ten ACC Challenge is gone. The Gavitt Games is up in the air. More people want neutral site games, so the Indy Classic is going to become more of a thing, in which case you're going to have to return that oftentimes. So you're going to have marquee games there. You're going to have your marquee MTE. So there is going to be a baseline of tough games every year. It's just going to be a little harder to get them scheduled than it might have been prior to TV taking over the world and the Big Ten turning into the Big 50.
Yeah.
But Purdue's going to keep challenging itself to build a resume, to develop its teams, things like that. And that's the more admirable way to do it, if you ask me.
Yeah, man. That doesn't mean they're going to go through it all unscathed. I don't think
there are years where you're going to be young and you're going to get your ass handed to you. And I apologize for my language, but I understand our readers have very delicate sensibilities.
They do, but word still that passes muster. You're all right. But no, I mean, I think like, that's right. I think
2019 is the classic example. Purdue did not win Purdue did not win a high major high major non-conference game. Remember, they lost 5 of 6.
Yeah.
Everybody they played who was a high major opponent in non-conference play, they got beat by. Now they let slip a couple of those games. They had Florida State beat at Florida State. There were some close games in there, but you can't really argue that losing those games early didn't help them when the NCAA tournament came around and you probably went to the Final Four after you probably won the Big Ten by a wide margin. It's just the nature of it. It is a process, and I think Matt Painter is the most process-oriented coach I can imagine. He might be the most process-oriented guy in college basketball.
Yeah, and it is paying dividends currently, and probably will for a while. All right, Brian, thanks as always. We wish everybody here a good weekend. Next weekend, I think it'll maybe the Tom and Brian show. They'll be talking to. I'm going to be out of town, but I don't know how they can carry on without me on this show. But Brian Neubert's an excellent host, so maybe they'll come up talk a little bit of Purdue. Obviously, as we talked in segment 1 with Tom, the whole notion of Big Ten Media Day, and football is just around the corner. There'll be a lot of that as well. So thanks to Union Club Hotel, and we appreciate them. They have just opened, Brian, just for you, a new spa on the second floor. You can have your nails done if you need to, a good massage, whatever it takes. Vicky Wicks and Company, I think it's actually going to open on the 23rd of July, which would be Tuesday of next week. So check that out if you're at the Union Club Hotel. And Brian is still campaigning to get several satellite facilities built around the country. I know that they're working on that feverishly right now. So want to remind folks too that you can subscribe, you can do whatever it takes. If you look at the bottom, if you're watching this on YouTube, special offers to become a member of GoldandBlack.com. We highly encourage that. And we also hope that you enjoy the rest of the summer weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week on our Saturday Simulcast.
I do appreciate the offer for the nail care, but I chew my nails, and I'm pretty good at it. So
well, that may be
I also
the
pick them. I compulsively pick my nails. It's one of my
I just put you back. I didn't mean to hit stop there. Go ahead. You say you compulsively pick you.
No. I appreciate the offer for the nail care, but I both chew and pick my nails as a OCD anxiety case that I am. So I probably won't be partaking in the finer things in life in that regard.
All right. Well said. All right. Again, we'll put a close to this. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week on Saturday Simulcast.